Hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another third stimulus check unemployment benefits extension update. So today I really want to talk and maybe take a change of pace to talk about the other side of the story. Specifically maybe sharing a lot more brighter or certainly at least more hopeful news about whether or not there's a chance that we can possibly see the unemployment benefits extension program return back again, certainly to the states that have already announced. Because as most of you guys know, and I talked about it in yesterday's video or the most recent video, about how as of this time that I'm making this video, 21 states have now officially announced that they will be ending their unemployment benefits program earlier than it had anticipated. I think the recent 3 states were Texas, Indiana, and Oklahoma, but I talk all about that in the most recent video, which I'll put at the very end screen, which is literally called 21 states, about the status of that. But in today's update, I really just want to talk about this positive, maybe more hopeful side about whether or not we can see unemployment return, because the story right now is that Bernie Sanders and several politicians as well have actually now come out, interestingly, to voice now in favor of trying to fight to keep the unemployment, or basically to reverse the decision with a lot of the unemployment programs that are currently ending, and to try to hope that as many more states that hopefully are still on their unemployment can stay on their unemployment, and for any state that might potentially be on the verge of ending earlier can hopefully maybe reverse that decision and essentially get it back again. So we're going to talk all about that in today's video, so hopefully to share something a lot more brighter to basically maybe potentially look forward to. But as always, real fast, before we begin, make sure you smash the like button because it's always greatly appreciated, especially because at least now we are talking about something more hopeful and, hopefully more positive. And as always, consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification button for future updates, since we are getting information really fast, almost every single several hours. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, thoughts about honestly just really anything at all, especially since I'm sure there are a lot of personal thoughts about this, and even more true if maybe you have any particular information about your particular state that you'd like to share as well. So that being said, let's just get this video started. So what's really going on right now is that there are actually many petitions or many individual states that are trying to take action now to try to fight to keep their unemployment benefits. And actually, interestingly, even for the 4th stimulus check that we kind of talked about, I did make a video which I'll also put at the very end screen. It basically talks about a petition that's going on right now, which has over 2 million signatures. I believe the name of that video is literally just called 2 million signatures or something like that. And I'll put it at the very end screen as well to know which one. But the idea is that there's a lot of petitions, some that are much more state specific, about people in that state that are trying to fight now to try to keep the unemployment benefits before they actually physically end, since we literally have at least at this point 1 month in most states of the states that have officially announced it. But interestingly, Bernie Sanders has now also recently written a letter now with the National Employment Law Project to Marty Walsh, who, if you're not familiar, he's pretty much the U.S. Labor Secretary, basically trying to talk about the legal side, if it's even possible to be able to physically end it earlier, or at least in attempts to try to slow down the process to maybe give states more time for states to decide, and also, of course, for most of us to try to stay on the unemployment as long as we possibly can try to be on it. I believe right now they're trying to bring up the argument that even though states technically the key word is kind of, maybe have some power to try to decide who gets the $300, although even that's particularly debatable and being fought on right now, I think that what they're really trying to preach is the fact that the PUA unemployment program is actually technically a federal program, but even more specifically is that it's a federal program where if you were to read the actual specific text, especially because as we kind of mentioned in a couple of the and by earlier we're talking about the videos that happened right around when the 3rd stimulus package was approved back in March. Crazy, we are now 2 months. Maybe consider subscribing if you guys are brand new, and huge thank you if you guys have been here around since then. It's always greatly appreciated. But the idea right now is that there's supposedly a text within that bill that talks about how the PUA program was specifically made so that anybody who was basically impacted by the pandemic, or basically anyone that struggled to get onto the traditional unemployment could be able to get onto the PUA unemployment. So the idea is that if you happen to be someone that either was struggling to find work, if you are self-employed, if you are a gig worker, but interestingly also, if you are someone that did not feel comfortable or could not work for something related to the pandemic. So this could be anything such as maybe because of a safety related reason, or maybe because you happen to have caught the pandemic yourself, you could have used the PUA to get on it. And because at the end of the day, the pandemic is still very much going on as we're speaking. Thankfully, we are seeing a lot of recovery, a lot of normalcy. I can speak here being in New York. We're starting to see lots of people come out, which is, relatively, if anything, pretty nice, I think, to a lot of people, certainly, that are finally looking for some sense of recovery and being able to go out again. But at the end of the day, because it's still going on, and I think it's fair to say is that many places, many people, many jobs, they still have to be tested. There are still people in hospitals. There are still many things that are, still looking to recover. I think that they're trying to bring up that argument that if they can maybe because of the text and because the PUA was designed exactly for this, that maybe by law, they actually should, or certainly maybe even have to actually keep the PUA. If they're able to successfully win this case, then it is very possible that they may even be able to now fight or extend it to a lot of the other programs. And now this would include both the PUC, the Fed Ed, the EB, and probably one of the more glorious parts is the $300 FPUC, which is the $300 boost that applies to every single person, regardless of your unemployment program, whether it's traditional UI, PUA, PUC, that applies to pretty much everyone. And because keep in mind is that to this day, there are still a lot of industries that are recovering. They're getting a lot better, but there's certainly still recovery needed to be made. For example, I can speak in New York, live entertainment has not come back yet. And basically a lot of hospitality, tourism, travel, they have started to return, but we still, I think it's very fair to say, have not gotten into full scale yet. It is even more true, for example, with travel, the fact that a lot of international countries are actually struggling even more now. If anything, they're actually on the, let's just say they're actually moving in the opposite direction than probably what they really want to be moving in. And it's actually because of that reason, it's going to potentially impact the travel industry because it means less tourists, less flyers, less people moving around, which also impacts hotel and everything basically related to that, including restaurants, which is another huge industry that was really, really impacted. There's also a lot of people that have gradually started to return back to work, but might actually still be relatively underemployed, which basically just means is that they're technically back to work, but they're either not working the full hour, so they haven't hit the actual 40 hours. They might, actually, I've also gradually started to take a couple side projects as well. So I'm also in that same exact shoes. But essentially the idea is that there's still a lot of people that either have not gotten back full-time yet, or they have actually relatively returned, but they're kind of at this point really just taking any job for the sake of taking a job, and they haven't really been able to find not just a job, but an actual quality level job that can actually allow them to kind of pay their bills and make a lot more than the typical, especially because keep in mind, minimum wage was never passed in, with the third package. So just something that actually pays a reasonably well enough salary to actually be worth it, to be able to come back, or to try to incentivize and get people to want to come back. But the idea right now is that a lot of these politicians, a lot of these states that are doing their petition, Bernie Sanders, they're really just writing their letters and trying to preach. I do know is that the one person that has not yet voiced too much about his opinion has pretty much been Biden. And I think a lot of people have actually been trying to press Biden to take action, especially because at the end of the day, he's probably considered the most important person, certainly the most important individual person in the entire country right now, and the final person who had the final signature put onto the third stimulus package. But at this current time, I think is that he's trying to make some level of agreement, even though I know it's obviously been very difficult because both the Democrats and the Republicans are on very, very far extreme ends. So we haven't really heard much about what Biden wants to do, but there's a lot of people trying to press to maybe try to push him to be be able to now start to come out and speak about it. But until then, that's pretty much what we're waiting for. But with that being said, that's pretty much just what I really wanted to cover in today's update, to maybe try to share something that's a little bit more uplifting or hopeful to look forward to. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well. Feel free as always to comment any questions, thoughts about honestly just really anything or information that you find. Remember to smash the like button, because at least there's hopefully some level of preach to know that there's someone fighting on our particular side as well. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.